Welcome to another episode of the Libertarian Christian Podcast, a project of the Libertarian Christian Institute. I'm your host, Doug Stuart, and with me today is Mark Skousen, who is a nationally known investment expert, economist, university professor, author, and at least importantly for this conversation, he's the founder and producer of FreedomFest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, attracts several thousand people a year, every year to its event in July. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Well, Doug, it's a pleasure to meet you and to talk about FreedomFest and anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I have a handful of questions about FreedomFest, but it might be really important to kind of get to know you a little bit. What is your background? Have you always been a libertarian? And if not, how did you become a libertarian?
You know, actually, my wife and I, Joanne, my wife, both of us are libertarians, although I think I'm more of a conservative libertarian than my wife. But I grew up in Portland, Oregon. My father was a conservative Democrat, and he was an FBI agent under J. Edgar Hoover and then became a family lawyer. He's since passed away, and we grew up in a Mormon community, a Mormon family, 10 children.
Okay.
And so I have gradually shifted, however, to a more libertarian position of thinking that you need maximum choice in life, and that includes some controversial areas of in terms of choice of what you want to do and what you take into your body and your decisions in life. I believe more in my wife and I wrote a book, a little pamphlet called Persuasion versus Force. And so we argue for maximum persuasion, and the last resort is passing a law that tells you what you have to do. Definitely move toward a more libertarian position. And in fact, the Mormon prophet Joseph Smith once was asked in the city of Nauvoo, well, what is the key to your success? And he said, we teach them correct principles and they govern themselves. And so I kind of like that approach. I do think it's a minority position in today's world. It just seems like everything is either being mandated or prohibited. And so we're being squeezed, if we can, on both sides of the freedom is in the middle, and prohibitions and mandates we're being squeezed from both sides. And it's very easy for us to condemn certain activities. One of the reasons we chose Las Vegas as the main location for FreedomFest, we now go to a few other cities from time to time, but we always come back to Las Vegas because Las Vegas symbolizes the libertarian philosophy, where you do have choices of what you can do in the evenings, and during the day you can see a great show, or you can go gambling, or you can go to a strip show. I mean, there's lots of choices there, and so you have your choice as to what you want to do. So that's my kind of libertarian Christian philosophy, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like they teach them the principles and they'll govern themselves. It sounds like you believe that would apply to larger society if a society could embrace principles of liberty.
So I'm an economist by training, and last year we celebrated the 300th anniversary of Adam Smith, who was born in 1723. And so last year I gave 13 lectures all around the country, including a lecture on Adam Smith's birthday, June 5th, in Edinburgh, where he lived most of his life. And that was basically Adam Smith's principle that you know more about your decision making in making those choices than any government agency would.
Yeah.
And so he advocated within the rule of law and in a robust competitive system, you want to have maximum liberty, maximum personal liberty, maximum liberty in your business, as a consumer, as a producer, as a supplier, as a worker. That is the concept that is really what's behind the philosophy of laissez-faire, or what Adam Smith called the system of natural liberty. So again, I think that's really the Christian perspective, that you don't force people to go to church. You don't force people to adopt your faith. Although a lot of Christians did believe in Sunday blue laws and other way, you back in the past, you had to be a member of a church or you were a heretic. But I think we've moved away from that to maximum choice in that respect. So it is a battle of ideas that goes on. And that's one reason I created FreedomFest, was I thought we were losing this battle. And so we needed to come together as a nation in the world, all the freedom lovers. We all live busy lives. We all do we have things to do in life, and we're really busy. But can we take 3 or 4 days out of the year to all come together and learn, network, socialize, and celebrate liberty? And it has been a big success. We have virtually all of the freedom organizations coming together in Las Vegas in July. And a very eclectic group, lots of debates, lots of, we have a film festival, the Anthem Film Festival that my wife does. We have a financial freedom seminars. We talk politics. We talk religion. We have multiple debates. We talk science and faith. And we have a mock trial. We have an incredible show every year. And so it's quite popular.
So tell us a little bit about the origin story. Like when was this? It's funny. You'd think I'd prep for this and have all the answers that I know I'm going to ask you, but I was just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to genuinely ask, what is some of the origin story? Because as long as I've been a libertarian, which is 15, 20 years, I've known about FreedomFest, but maybe it came along during that time. So when was it founded, and what was that like to sort of conceptualize and get off the ground?
Well, my original idea came when I was appointed president and CEO of the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE, F-E-E. And this is the oldest free market think tank, established in 1946 in New York. And they have a 35-room mansion. I was made like the 8th president, something like that. Since Leonard Reed was the founder, there'd been a number of changes, new presidents. And in the year 2001, I was appointed the president of FEE. And FEE used to be numero uno as far as free market think tanks, way ahead before the Heritage and Cato and Reason and all these other organizations were around. But they had, ever since Leonard Reed died in 1984, I think, the FEE had kind of lost its way. It was publishing the Freeman, but it wasn't really the dynamic number one freedom organization like these others, like Cato and Heritage and Reason and so forth. So my goal was to reinvigorate, to bring back the glory days of FEE. And so I said, well, why don't we do something that nobody else has done? Let's do a national convention and invite all the freedom organizations and supporters come together, and we'll meet in Las Vegas. I think it was in May in Las Vegas. We had 850 people the first time. It was kind of called FeeFest. And we had Ben Stein as our keynote speaker. We had Charles Murray come. We had Nathaniel Brandon from the Ayn Rand Institute. And we had just a wonderful get together. And it was a very big success.
Was it the same 3.5 days?
Yep, 3.5 days, and a big banquet at the end. And it was a very big success in Las Vegas. The problem was that I was not a very good fundraiser. So as you know, when you're president of a nonprofit foundation, 90% of your time is raising funds. And I'm more of an intellectual type, and a professor and a writer and a speaker and so on. But I wasn't really good at going around and having dinners with people and asking them for money and all that sort of thing. So unfortunately, I only lasted a year, but I still felt that the idea of FeeFest was really a good one, to have an annual get-together of all freedom lovers. And so as a result, a couple of years later, I linked up with the Young America's Foundation for a while. And then finally in 2007, that's kind of the critical year where we created FreedomFest. And it's a for-profit, not a nonprofit. It's a for-profit organization. So what does that mean? That means our customers are attendees. It's not the donors. In a nonprofit, as you know, it's the donors that call all the shots, and you have to do what the donors want. Well, I wanted a conference where the attendees are the true customers. Mm-hmm. And so Freedom Fest has been very successful in that regard, because we have a lot of entertainment. We have a lot of speakers. We have a lot of breakout sessions. Nobody's ever bored at Freedom Fest. I'm sure you've been to a conference where there's just one session, one speaker. And if you weren't interested in what that speaker had to say, you'd go outside and spend time with your friends and meet others. And so the idea of Freedom Fest is everybody has a different experience, because we have 10 breakout sessions at the same time. So you have to pick and choose. And there's sometimes 2 or 3 events you want to attend at the same time. And we have this huge exhibit hall. The exhibit hall is where all the action is. There's a lot of buzz there. Yeah. And we have a big bookstore. We have all these, I don't know if you're going to be exhibiting there, but we have lots of exhibitors there with freedom organizations. We have financial services. We have various people promoting their products and their services. It's really a lot of fun. And we have a lot of authors. We have C-SPAN Book TV interviewing people all the time. We have lots of media coverage. We have our Radio Row, which you will probably be on. So
we were on that. We were on that last year, and we were probably one of the more active booths, because we were just constantly interviewing people. And
this is the great thing about it. There's so many interesting people that you want to interview. Just grab one after another.
Well, and everyone's saying yes, because it's like, well, what else are they going to be doing? They're going to be doing interviews with people to promote their causes and to promote their organizations, and they're interesting people. And I'm just going to second what you said there about the exhibit hall, because the experience there for my entire team last year, which would be 2023. Which was in Memphis, was that we got to meet just a ton of people, and also get to. Connor Boyack said it's like the family reunion. That's what he calls it, and everybody's there. Everybody gets to say hello to each other, and catch up, and then also meet new people. And there is a buzz about the place that is something I haven't seen pretty much anywhere else.
That's the thing. When you walk into that exhibit hall on our opening ceremonies and cocktail reception, and you feel that buzz, it's unmistakable, and it's very rare. The other thing is, at the end of our conference, we always have a big banquet. And for those who stick around for the Saturday night banquet, we have a dance party. And I don't know how many libertarian conferences you've been to, but it's usually a bunch of nerds talking to each other. There's a dance band out there, but nobody's dancing. But at Freedom Fest, people are out there dancing, and they're just letting loose after 3.5 days of constant debates and meeting with people. I mean, you gotta celebrate. You gotta have some fun. Yeah. So we make a big point of that. We bring in a really good dance band every time, and we have a really nice dinner and stuff. So it's really a fun event from beginning to end.
Well, you speak to the diversity of the kind of experience that people are going to have there. And also, it's not just the nerds, the people who either want to, whether they can or can't dance is another question, I suppose. But people who are interested in dancing on Saturday night, there's a lot of diverse people that are there. I mean, we know this if we're a libertarian listening to this or watching this on YouTube. We know that libertarians are diverse in a number of ways, whether it's attitudes, lifestyles, whatever, what have you. But on the flip side of that, you have that with the attendees. But one thing that I have been pretty pretty impressed with generally, whether I've been to FreedomFest in the past, I've only been to the last two, but even prior to that, is your ability to bring in celebrities and people who are of diverse opinions, even if it's only libertarian adjacent on, say, one particular issue. And so what's that experience been like? I'm sure you've gotten pushback or complaints by other libertarians for having, somebody like Andrew Yang show up or Donald Trump or whatever, what have you. There's got to be, you're not going to please everybody. This is libertarianism after all, right? So what's been the experience, though, in you trying to attract a bigger tent to be part of the people who are going to be in attendance? Or, sorry, the speakers and in attendance, yeah.
This is one thing we felt was really important. We had to do something different and unique from the standard libertarian type of conference. So one of the things we do is we bring in speakers that nobody else is bringing in. So the best example of this was not Donald Trump per se. But we brought in Paul Krugman to debate Steve Moore. And actually, before Donald Trump, he only came 3 days before he announced, I'm coming to FreedomFest. But we still had a standing room only crowd because we had Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize winner, New York Times columnist, and we had to pay him a ton of money to debate Steve Moore. And it was just a wonderful debate. It was a civil debate. Nobody was and whistling, and you know how some groups can be. And Paul Krugman went away with a more positive view about libertarians. I was really pleased with that whole thing. But let me just give you some examples of some of our celebrity speakers that surprised people when we chose them. One was William Shatner of Star Trek, and he was wonderful and obviously not necessarily a libertarian. He's kind of a big government guy in a lot of ways, but people really resonated with him. And I actually arm wrestled with him on stage. It was pretty funny. He's 5 years older than I am, and he definitely beat me. It was really fun to watch. And then the next year we had
fun
George
for the audience, maybe not for you.
Yeah. And then we had George Foreman the next year. And I had one prominent libertarian come up to me and say, why are you bringing George Foreman? I mean, he's not a libertarian and so on. And in fact, when George Foreman, he's a motivational speaker. When George Foreman came up, he came up to me and he says, Mark, I want you to understand that I don't give a political speech. In fact, if you don't mind, I would prefer that nobody ask any political questions. I want to give my speech on what it's like to be an American, to become the heavyweight champion of the world. What was it like to fight Muhammad Ali? And then I was an entrepreneur, and I was a Christian preacher. And he talked about all of those things in his talk. And then when it was through, there were question and answers. And we can't control what people are going to ask. So there's one person at the end, it was a woman, she said, Mr. Foreman, what's your opinion of Black Lives Matter? Political question. And Foreman, he thought for a minute and he said, well, you know what? I grew up dirt poor in Houston, Texas, and became the heavyweight champion of the world. Does that answer your question? So I thought it was a wonderful answer to say the American dream is still alive for everyone, black or white, male or female, Jew or Gentile, Christian or Muslim.
Yeah.
So anyway, George Foreman was really terrific and people just loved him. And afterwards, the guy who complained, he came up to me and he said, Mark, I'll tell you, Foreman gave one of the best speeches I've ever heard. It was just wonderfully motivational. And so that was great. Then the next time, our big keynote speaker was Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank. And I had him on a debate with John Mackey. And boy, they just disagreed very strongly on various things and stuff. And I mean, it was really fun, a fun debate between John Mackey and Kevin O'Leary. And we also had Peter Thiel debate John Mackey as well on Peter Thiel's book that he was opposed to competition. He's a strong believer in monopoly, and he lost that debate and hasn't been back since. But that was really a fun debate as well.
He's been pretty busy though.
You were probably 2 years ago. We had John Cleese, the British comedian, and he was a huge hit. And he's a big believer in free speech. So that's one of those examples where we take one particular topic and explore that. Yeah. And then finally, this last year, we had Mike Rowe come, the star of Dirty Jobs, and he knocked it out of the park. And I interviewed him on stage. I don't know if you were there for the interview, but I arranged this at the end. I said, well, let's take the last question for the Q&A session. And so I said, I hear Jim out here has a question for you. He starts by singing, "Where is the good and goodbye? Where's the hell and hello?" He's singing from The Music Man. And then 3 other members of a quartet, a barbershop quartet, began singing in front of Mike Rowe. And Mike Rowe was just blown away because he has been a singer on a barbershop quartet. I did my research and found this out. And he's also sung in opera.
Oh, wow.
So these guys came up on stage, all impromptu, and they got Mike Rowe to sing with him. And it was,
that's cool.
It brought the house down.
Yeah.
So we have some pretty big names coming this year. I don't know if you want to talk about those, but
well, no, we certainly can. Do you just to drill down a little bit on the the big name thing? Do you know whether or not there's just a lot more celebrities out there, whether it's in Hollywood or the entertainment industry, that are more libertarian than we might give? In our heads, they're all a bunch of statists because, Hollywood is always, we have the Leo DiCaprio mindset in our brains about everyone in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. What do you know about the celebrity libertarians out there that we may not know of?
Well, there are quite a few who are maybe, I don't know if libertarian. I mean, Charlton Heston was more of a conservative than a libertarian, and I did meet him in person, but we never got him. His son actually came to FreedomFest, and he's quite libertarian. So that was really cool. This year we have Rob Schneider coming, who is a comedian and works with Adam Sandler in his movies, The Water Boy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was in Home Alone 2, which Donald Trump was also in. So Rob Schneider, we just signed him up, and he's an actor, comedian, producer, and he's quite excited about it. I think he's pretty libertarian from everything that I can tell. So he would certainly be one. And we also have Ice-T coming, the rapper and actor in Law and Order. And again, he's for criminal justice reform. And we've actually met him. My wife and I, we actually taught at Sing Sing Penitentiary for 12 years, not as inmates, but as teachers. And we got to know Ice-T. My wife, Joanne, is running the Anthem Film Festival, and she did a TEDx at Sing Sing that Ice-T was involved in. So we were able to get him this year. So we do have a couple of actors that I don't know if they're all perfectly libertarian. Not sure how you define that, but they certainly fit into that as well. And then we had Dennis Quaid last year appear on video. He didn't appear in person, or maybe it was 2 years ago. He's the main actor for the new Reagan movie that is coming out finally this year in the theaters. So Dennis Quaid, I think more of a conservative than a libertarian, would fit into that category. And so there are a number of actors out there that I think would fit into that category that are, I mean, we had Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to come to speak at Freedom Fest. That would certainly be a coup, but he wanted $250,000 plus a private jet, and it was just a little too rich for us.
Yeah. Okay.
We do pay a lot more than any other libertarian group. That's for sure. We do pay full dollar for a lot of these people to come. to speak. And this is libertarian organizations. It's kind of interesting. The nonprofits, they do raise a lot of money and stuff. They do tend to plead poverty a lot of times when it comes to putting. The problem is the donors. See, the donors object. If you paid $250,000 for somebody to come and speak to a Cato or Heritage or something, the donors object to that. They say, "Oh, that $250,000, you could have spent that on a student program or something like that,
Right.
Getting a book out or what have you." But you see, because we are for profit, we want the attendees to be happy. Well, let me tell you, when you bring in a celebrity speaker, you are playing to the customer, which is the attendee, not necessarily the donor. The attendees love George Foreman and William Shatner and Kevin O'Leary and people like that. So that is one thing that makes us very, very different. The other thing that's really important is we think financial freedom is extremely important, that you need to be financially successful to really have freedom and the leisure time to pursue your interests and to fund all these nonprofit libertarian organizations, including your own.
Yeah.
And so we have a 3.5-day investment conference, and we've had some top financial people like Jeremy Siegel from the Wharton School, the Wizard of Wharton. We've had Burt Maciel from Princeton University. We've had Robert Kawasaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad. In fact, Robert Kawasaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad, the most popular book, financial book that's ever been written in the history of the world. He's coming this year to FreedomFest. And we have the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul is apparently he's coming in. So we do have some motivational people that are coming in this year. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening this year in terms of more than just the big name speakers, and I want to kind of lead into that before we wrap up here. This year's theme is Brave New World, which is clearly a connection to Aldous Huxley's book Brave New World and what we're dealing with on the face of it. Has there always been a theme each year, and what do you do to promote that theme around? Like, you're going to have to, you put a puzzle. Matt Day, who's the guy who puts all these things together, at least since I've been involved. He says like this one big puzzle, and it just eventually comes together. A few weeks or months before the show begins, and that's a big puzzle to put together. And how do you incorporate the theme into that? And how do you decide your theme?
Yeah, every year we decide a theme, and a lot of it depends on what's going on in the world. For example, when the Tea Party movement got started in 2011, we decided to do a theme: are we headed for a new American Revolution or a French Revolution? And that really got a lot of people interested. That was one of our biggest turnouts, and we had a lot of we brought in experts, historians who talked about the French Revolution and the American Revolution, and one turned out really good, the American Revolution, and the French Revolution turned out very poorly. And what were the differences, even though they started off in both of them as rebellions? There was an era of pessimism as a result of the 2008 financial crisis, and we did one. Are we Rome? Are we Rome? Are we headed for a decline? That got a very big turnout. We had a whole Roman philosophy and people dressed up in Roman togas and stuff like that. It was really fun. So a lot of things depend on what's going on. So we think with what is going on in the world, this Aldous Huxley's book, Brave New World, really fit in. And I actually think that the novel there is more applicable than 1984. I mean, all these dystopian novels are very applicable. We're gonna have a session on why we chose Huxley's book. But everybody's on drugs in the Brave New World.
Yeah,
and that's how you calm people down so that they're not revolutionaries and stuff like that. But it's all about propaganda, isn't it? And it's also about people's sex life and the transgenders and the cultural changes that are going on that are really a rejection of traditional Christian values, Judeo-Christian code. So how do we deal with that? So this is one of the themes that we're really trying to grapple with. So I think it'll be really quite interesting.
Yeah.
But I do want, one thing that we try to do is be optimists. We want people to leave Freedom Fest with a sense that we're winning, or we have a chance of winning our position. And this is the great thing. All the people who are kind of depressed about what's happening in the world, if they come to Freedom Fest, they leave Freedom Fest with a more optimistic view because they meet people that have their views in common, which is really helpful. But they also kind of focus on what they can do to make a difference in the world. And our best example is our keynote speaker this year is Javier Milei from Argentina. Let me tell you something. We are lucky to get him because he is in huge demand. He's literally getting hundreds of invitations around the world. And he has been very selective. He spoke at CPAC and he spoke at the Milken Conference. Then last week he was in Spain and spoke in front of an entire stadium of people that were just roaring in success and resonate with his real attack on socialism. And he is a powerful speaker, although it's all in Spanish, so we have to translate. I think he speaks English, but he's a little bit uncomfortable with English. But he's coming to Freedom Fest, and he will be there on Saturday, July 13th. And this is going to be a story. Everybody who's listening needs to make whatever sacrifice to be there, even if it's just on Saturday, July 13th, to hear and meet this person, because he's transformational. He's a Reagan, he's a Thatcher, and he is getting his agenda through. In my newsletter, I write an investment newsletter. It's my main source of income. So in my newsletter, Forecasts and Strategies, we've been recommending the Argentine Fund ever since he was elected. And we're up 40% now. It's our best performing investment. And emerging markets are not famous for being a very good investment. But if he's successful, he can totally change Venezuela and Latin America, and maybe even the world. All these people who say they're socialists, he could be that kind of a transformational figure. And for us as an opportunity to meet and greet him and to celebrate this transformation, it reminds me of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump came to Freedom Fest in 2015, he spoke on 7/11 in Vegas. It was his lucky day, July 11th. And he was going down in the polls. But after his speech, which was televised nationwide we had every media you can imagine there, even had Playboy magazine there. And his poll numbers turned around at that point. So we're taking full credit or blame, if you will, for Donald Trump becoming president.
You stole my joke. You preempted my comment.
That was one thing. So you were going to blame us for that.
Well, you could take credit or blame either way, I suppose, because it usually things like that are a mix. No one's 100% evil. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but at least the things they do can't always have 100% negative outcomes. But one thing that I do know, to transition slightly in a cheesy way, is that you guys have really great outcomes with Freedom Fest, and you guys are really have a lot of credit to there's a lot of credit to give to you for putting together an event that is pretty well loved. It is something to attend and experience in a really positive way. I've gone, again, I've only been to 2. I went to Vegas, went to Memphis, and both have just been really great, both from a sponsor standpoint and also just being there as an attendee. Mark, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to say about Freedom Fest Maybe specific details. When is it this year? So
Yep.
This is going to air about a month or so ahead, I think. And so just give some details, and I'll let you say anything else you need to and wrap up.
Yeah, so it's July 10th through the 13th at the new Caesars Forum Convention Center, which is across the street from Caesars Palace. It's actually near Harrah's. And so we have those dates, 3.5 days of nonstop activity. People are pretty dreary-eyed by the time it's over with. And our Anthem Film Festival that my wife does is very popular. People love these shorts and narratives, and she has panels and stuff like that she has nonstop, so you can see movies as well. I did want to mention we have two of the what I call America's or Western public intellectuals. We have Steven Pinker from Harvard University, who's written Enlightenment Now. I'm really looking forward to him. He's a real public intellectual in America. And then we have Lord Matt Ridley, who's the public intellectual from the UK. And I'm really interested in his book on innovation that he recently wrote. We have Kennedy from Fox News is our MC. She's back for the 3rd or 4th year in a row. She's so popular. People just love her as a top libertarian. So it's just an outstanding event. And it's one of those things where people need to, I've met a number of people say, I've always wanted to come to Freedom Fest. There was always something going on. It kept me from coming. Last year, we had one of these people, and he finally got to come. And I have this wonderful picture of him smiling, holding a silver dollar, because that's one of our symbols of Freedom Fest. And he's looking up at Kennedy and myself and others. We put everybody on the stage who has a silver dollar, kind of a big celebration. And he's got this wonderful smile on him. He said, I finally came to Freedom Fest. And his wife just sent me a letter saying, and he passed away after that. It was,
wow.
But he went out with a smile on his face because he always wanted to come to Freedom Fest and finally had that opportunity. So if people go to freedomfest.com, that's where they get all the information, 800 number you can call, and to sign up, we have specials, $50 off. I think you have a code, don't you?
Yeah, I was just about to say, for those listening to this show, Christian50 as your coupon code, and that'll give you $50 off of your attendance rate.
So that's it. It's start from the very. Oh, and by the way, we have Governor Joe Lombardo as the new governor of Nevada coming in to welcome us. So we have Rob Snyder on Wednesday and on Thursday. Oh, we have a presidential debate. Did I tell you we have the most democratic presidential debate? Why do I say democratic? Because unlike this Republican-Democrat debate, there's no third parties. There's only the two big ones, Biden and Trump debating, and they don't have a public audience. There's no audience. It's just CNN interviewing them. Well, ours, we have a full debate. We've invited all the parties, including third parties and independent thinkers, including the libertarians, including Robert Kennedy Jr., who, as you know, spoke in Memphis this last year, and he may be coming again. We haven't confirmed everybody's coming. There's rumor that Donald Trump wants to come, and who knows about Joe Biden and stuff. But it's going to be a real presidential debate. And that will be on Thursday. And then on Friday, we have, of course, we have a big Bitcoin debate and lots of other things. And then on Saturday, we have Millet coming, and there, we have over 200 speakers and sessions. So there's a lot going on there, creating a lot of buzz. So anyway, freedomfest.com and Christian50 for the code. And make we've had people change their family vacations to come to Freedom Fest, or make Freedom Fest their family vacation. Although we recommend that teenagers are fine and stuff. Little children, you need a babysitter for that, for sure.
Yeah, it's probably not that it's inappropriate per se. But they just might not be as interested, except for maybe the Tuttle Twins booth. because they're there. Actually, my wife and I, when the last two times that we came, that was sort of what we did. Was we planned our anniversary trip based on Freedom Fest. We went to Vegas, and thankfully it was in a different location the second time we went, and it was Memphis. So we got to experience new parts of the world and double up by doing Freedom Fest right away after. So it is a good place to go.
And we will the next year. We are having another location that we can't announce. We will announce on Saturday, but every time we've mentioned it to people, their eyes light up. So it's going to be an interesting location for the following year.